All right, good. Okay. So before we get started, this presentation is a little bit interactive, and we'll be using the Expo library, which is kind of like a layer on top of React Native. So if any of you guys want to follow along, there are two links up here to download that from your respective app stores. I don't know. Yeah. So while you guys do that, I generally get pretty nervous doing these things, so I'd like to kind of start off with a joke, if that's all right. Uh, have you guys ever eaten a clock or like a watch or anything? I heard it was pretty time consuming. All right. So you guys have this locked and loaded? Let's go. So hot dog, not hot dog. I have a few questions to get started. Does anyone watch Silicon Valley? All right, great. Has anyone used React Native before? All right, pretty good crew. Nice. Has anyone used Expo to build their apps? All right, great. So the obligatory about you slide. My name is Mitch Masia. I'm a full stack JavaScript engineer at Talkrise, and we do advanced JavaScript training that is in person, and we always use real life sort of projects. If you want to know more about it later, come talk to myself or Riaz over here. So what is React Native? I'm sure you guys have probably heard of hybrid development platforms like Ionic, Cordova. Um, there's several more, but this is not a hybrid app platform. Yes, it allows you to write one code base and for two different platforms, but it is not a DOM-based implementation. You don't use HTML or CSS. Everything you write is JavaScript. And then there are some bridges to the native layer. And because you get to write pure JavaScript, you get to use the things that are most familiar, like NPM, and you can download your favorite packages like Moment or Lodash. And it also uses React. Now, it doesn't use the typical components that you would use in a React application like a div or an H1. It uses React Native specific components that actually compile down to their respective native view layers. And we'll talk about that in a sec. So the magic of React Native and the way they're able to get away from the hybrid app platform is to create a bridge between your JavaScript logic and the native runtime environment. And I don't really want to get into the specifics of how they do this. This is supposed to be more of a broad overview. But when you do that, you can access all of the native APIs using just pure JavaScript, whether that's your image picker or geolocation, push notifications, or even like the action sheet that comes up from the bottom. If you've ever used a hybrid platform, that's all emulated, right? But with React Native, you're actually using the real native components. And that also plays into the actual view layer, where you're not interacting with a specific API, but you want to create like a button or a list view, slider, switch, text. You write using specific React Native components, and they get kind of translated in the build process, as we'll see in a sec. Also, you should note that because there is no DOM and no CSS specifically, all your styling is in JavaScript, which is actually way better, in my opinion, because you can kind of write functional CSS, if that's your thing. Also, we use Flexbox for layout. So just a few interesting tidbits to get started. React Native actually started as an internal Facebook hackathon project in 2015, in January 2015, and then in March it was open sourced. And currently there's over 49,000 stars on GitHub. Within the first year since it was released, there were over 30,000, and now it's actually one of the top 10 most starred projects on GitHub. And a lot of people have this conception that you can really write once and run it on both platforms. I'm here to say that it's only semi-true. because if you actually look at the docs, there are platform-specific APIs that you have to use depending on what device you're trying to target. And you can see there's plenty for iOS, Android, and maybe Windows, but these ones down here are all common that you'll see, whereas these are kind of specific to each platform, and you have to write with specific file extensions or check the platform version if you are trying to use these specific APIs. And I'm happy to talk more about that later if you guys want. So how does this really work? What does this look like, right? On the left, you'll see what you might be familiar with React. You create a class that extends the component. You might have a lifecycle hook and a constructor, as well as the infamous render function, right? And with plain React, you're just using the normal HTML that we all know and love, right? Where on the right, you might see here that it looks almost identical, right? Which is the beauty of getting to use React for native development, except you import components like style sheet, text, and view from React Native and use those to create your views. Here you can see instead of class name in React, we actually are just defining a style from this global object styles.container, which is just a JavaScript object that we've already defined. And here, if you guys can see that, we kind of break it down a little bit, where you use this view, and after the React Native build process, on iOS, that view gets turned into a UI view, and on Android, it gets turned into an Android.view. Now, what this allows you to do is achieve way better performance than you do on most hybrid app platforms, where the scrolling might be a little buggy or something like that. Here, you're actually writing a fully native view, which is really cool. So a lot of people ask, is this half-baked? No, but there is some substantial flux. Right now, Facebook, who still maintains this project, is on a monthly release schedule with sometimes breaking changes, and sometimes the packages you'll want to use get out of date with the current React Native version, so you kind of have to be careful when you're including those. But it is definitely production ready, as you can see from the big list of some of the world's top brands: Facebook, Instagram, Airbnb, Walmart, Tesla, Uber Eats switched over, Delivery.com, and Vogue. So now, what is Expo? And I could definitely give you guys a half-baked explanation on that, but the video on their website is way better. So, Chris, do we have audio? All right, let's try it.
Hey, my name is Brent. I'm a developer at Exponent. Exponent is a free open-source project for building native iOS and Android apps in JavaScript. We built Exponent on top of React Native, a popular library that lets you control the native UI components from iOS and Android using JavaScript. It's a proven technology, and companies like Facebook, Walmart, and Airbnb are already using it in production so that their web developers can be native mobile developers too. I like to think of Exponent like Rails for React Native, by reducing the amount of decisions you need to make up front and providing built-in solutions for the problems faced by most apps. Features that used to take 2 days can get done in 10 minutes. Push notifications, Facebook login, camera, video, maps, and crash reporting are all available right out of the box. If you're a web developer, you'll feel right at home with Exponent. When you're developing an app with Exponent, you don't need Xcode or Android Studio. All you need is a text editor of your choice and a small piece of desktop software called XDE. It runs on Mac, Windows, and Linux. XDE helps you set up new projects and provides a set of tools to make common tasks like viewing logs and opening the app on your device as easy as they should be. It also lets you share your app while you're working on it, so your coworkers can watch your changes live, and publish your app to our server so it can be accessed at any time. Exponent will also build your app binaries for you, so all you need to do is run one command and we will give you the IPA or APK file ready to submit to the Apple App Store or Google Play Store. Once your app is live in the store, you can publish updates to it from XDE in seconds. These updates take effect the next time a user opens your app on all platforms without needing to go through the app stores themselves. People have already been using Exponent to make personal projects, games, productivity tools, and consumer apps. Our favorite so far is the Android version of an app called List, which was featured on the Google Play Store and downloaded tens of thousands of times. Follow the guide on getexponent.com to get started, and within 5 minutes you can have an app up and running on your phone. So give it a try on your next project and let us know what we can do to help you build better cross-platform apps faster.
So if you guys have ever written a native app or a React Native app and did not use Expo, you should be like out of your chairs cheering right now because this is amazing. All right. Well, that didn't really land like I thought it would. I'll tell you. Anyway, there are a few parts to this, React Native toolkit, this Expo. You have the mobile app that some of you downloaded and some of you reluctantly did not. And you have a desktop app that lets you start, boot, view the logs of your app and everything. You can also use their command line interface for that. And then they have this really, really cool web app called Snack here, which I think they brand as a React Native playground. So this is the interactive part, where those of you who download the app, please open that up. And if you can here, I don't know if I can zoom in on this a little bit. Is that working for anybody? If you scan that QR code? Yeah, you got. Oh. All right. So if you didn't get it, try and look on with a neighbor or something because this is about to be really cool. Yeah, I think so. All right. Let's get started here. Look on with your neighbor if you couldn't quite get it. So this is what they like to call a React Native playground, right? And if you guys are looking at that app, as soon as I change text on here, I believe, and ideally, it should change for all of you. So let's just go ahead and yeah, did you guys get that? So if you guys have ever developed native apps before, this is really amazing because it lets you iterate really quickly in just glorious fashion. Now, another thing that they have here for you are a lot of pre-built components that use either the native device APIs or just various libraries that Expo is taking care of to integrate for you. So say you want just a basic button, right? Let's go ahead and we can drag in that button right there. And did that change on your guys' devices? Working? What's that? Oh, my bad. I dragged that the wrong place. Let's try that again. It looks like I made an error. This is always the trouble with live coding at these. How about that? All right, cool. And it should do a little alert or something when you click on it. And this is really powerful and really amazing. And one more way I want to demonstrate that is with Facebook login, which can normally be like a real hassle. You still have to go create your app in Facebook and everything. Let's say we drag that down. Did you guys get that right? And when you click on that, it pops up the modal to authenticate with Facebook. Pretty incredible, right? Yes, please. All right, very good. All right, so we are gonna hop out of here, but this is called Expo Snack if you guys want to play with it later. I think it's also worth mentioning that there are some alternatives to this Expo system, like the Shout'em libraries or Pepperoni Elements and Snowflake. Some of those are more starter libraries for your React Native app, but they're still pretty interesting and worth taking a look at if you want something a little lighter weight. So let's kind of get into the crux of what this talk is about, right? Which is hot dog or not hot dog. This is a little explicit if any of you guys are sensitive to that. Nope. Oh, oh, this is wonderful. Very good. in YouTube here?
It's ready.
All right, great. Thanks, Rios.
What will you say if I told you there is an app on the market?
We're past that part. Just demo it.
Okay. Let's start with a hot dog. Oh shit!
Yes!
It works!
Oh, motherfuck!
Huzzah!
Jinyang, my beautiful little Asiatic friend, I'm going to buy you the palapa of your life. We will have 12 posts, braided palm leaves. You'll never feel exposed again.
I'm gonna be rich. Fuck you, Guilfoyle. Do pizza.
Let's do pizza.
Yeah.
Pizza. Pizza.
Not hot dog.
Wait, what the fuck?
And
That's it. It only does hot dogs.
no, and a not hot dog.
All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed that. So I love this clip, so I actually went out and built this app. And just a quick overview of the architecture here. We have an Expo-based mobile app, right? And we're going to use the image picker component from the Expo library there to grab an image from our library and then upload that to Cloudinary, which is an image storage and delivery service. It's really great. I would definitely recommend using it. We're going to get a secure delivery URI back from them. And then we're going to make a request to a little node server that I wrote, which hits a Clarify API, which is an API for image recognition. And we're just going to send that response back to the client and check it out there. The reference solutions are on GitHub, and these slides will be up after the presentation if you guys want to see that. So I guess let's kind of dive into it. I guess you guys can check out the Node API first. It's really, really simple. Clarify has a great package on NPM. You just have to go create a free trial account. Yeah. You just have to go create a new, I guess my ESLint is acting weird, but here we're just instantiating a Clarify client and then having it predict the contents of whatever image URI we're sending it. So that's really straightforward stuff, and again, the solution is on GitHub. And then let's dive a little bit into this React Native app with Expo. Here, you can see it looks just like React from the onset. Yeah, I will, sorry. We're gonna start in the main.js file. All right, looks just like React from the onset, except now we have this Expo library, right? And like I was talking about before, instead of using DOM components, we're actually going to import components from React Native, which then translate into their respective native views. We also have a custom component that I wrote, nh, not hot dog button, which is just displaying that, of course, you can write components in React Native just like you would in React. And this, again, imports button from React Native, and it's just a pure functional component, if you guys are familiar with that. All right, so I also wrote a few utility functions in this image utilities file, where we use the, image picker that we get from Expo here. Declared a few constants. I didn't want to deal with environment config. And the first thing we do is use the image picker to launch the image library and get the result. We also have a function to upload that. It's just a post call to Cloudinary with the base64 encoded data. And then we also have a call to analyze the image, which hits the node server that we took a look at before. So let's hop back to main.js for a sec. We declare initial state, that's fine. And this should look familiar to those of you guys who have written React before. We have a constructor with a few functions that we're able to use in this stateful container here. In state, we keep a message and a names array, the names array, is going to contain all of the different keys for what the clarify API finds in the image, whether that's dog, hot dog, cat, etc. We are using a bunch of those image utilities that I just displayed, and we use kind of wrapper functions for those so that we're able to do specific things like setting state inside this container. But let's hop down to the interesting part here, the view, where we actually use React Native components in order to compose this single reusable view, like a scroll view, the NH button we declared before, and then a view, which is equivalent to like a div if you're doing a web app, the image, and just a text component for a message. Also, how I mentioned that we use JavaScript for all of our styling. We can do stylesheet.create down here where we create a container component, which will act as like our whole screen or our whole view, as well as just declaring width and height on the image. And then this expo register root component is how it tells expo what to kind of run. So that's all interesting and whatnot, but let's play with hot dog, not hot dog. All of you guys who have the app now on your phones, if you want to pull those out, that would be great. What do you mean? Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, I missed that. All right. So you guys can use this server over here. I'm going to ngrok in here. Hold on. 5742. Yeah. And then I'm just going to take this constant here. Like I said, I didn't want to deal with the environment config, so I'm going to plug that right in here. And we're going to hop over to the Expo development environment, like they mentioned in the video. Start up the app. Logs from the devices can be shown here. And soon, if you guys boot up your app, once this is done, you will actually be able to interact with hot dog, not hot dog, and pick images from your phones to test it out. Oh, yes, you do. Sorry, that's my mistake. We have that barcode here. Oops. Can you guys get this? Or is it too small from there? I believe there's also a link you can type in. Did anyone get that? All right, good. So, sorry, this is what I kind of thought would be the difficult part of the presentation here. Yeah, you can go grab an image from the web. Sorry, I don't really have a great interactive demo for this. I guess I could boot up on the iOS simulator here. Huh? I should have brought a hot dog, honestly. Has anyone been able to use it yet? Yeah? And what was the result? A panda is not a hot dog. Thank you very much. So we'll see if we can get this up here. All right, so it's really simple. Like I showed, this is just the NH button component from earlier. We're going to go ahead and select that image and use the Expo. I'm looking for scale. I don't know why this pulled up on an iPad, but okay. So we're going to use the Expo image picker here to go in, select our image, and use. You can see it said updating, or uploading, analyzing, and then came out as not hot dog. So it works. If you guys want to play around with it yourselves, of course you can do that. But it's really the principle of how easy it is to build, rather complex applications using this Exponent library, which takes away a ton of kind of frustrating configuration for you. So just switching back gears for a sec. Again, I'm Mitch from Talkrise, and we do advanced JavaScript training. We have bi-monthly meetups over at Tech Square Labs. Next week, we're actually holding one on React testing with Jess. We also do free workshops for your company, and again, come talk to Riaz and I afterward. And we offer courses on React Redux, Node, Angular, and Ember. And for you guys, we have a special code, ATLJS, so feel free to check out our website for that. Are there any questions about React Native, Expo, what we do? Yes. Yeah. Yeah. The paradigm is pretty much exactly the same, except there is no local storage if you want to use that for an auth token or something. So we like to use this library Redux persist that will use the native device. It kind of abstracts away the native device's storage and then rehydrates the store every time you come back to the app. Cool. This app did not use Redux. This is all just simple state. Yeah. In terms of, is it ready for production? I'd say yes. I can't really speak to what the specific holdups are to getting to a 1.0. Yeah. I think you might be able to do that with Redux persist, but I'm not positive. I'm sure there are other encryption libraries that you could find for React Native. Kotlin, sure. Right, if you can write native code, you can do anything the native device can do. You just have to write your own specific bridge to that device API or whatever you want to use there. Not being a native developer myself, I can really only speak to the web side. And the fact that you're able to use React to build these applications really brings it down. All you really have to learn is the interactions with the device APIs as well as the React Native specific components like views and text. Styling in JavaScript takes a little bit to get used to, but once you get it, you really get it, and it's awesome. And I think I missed this, but I also wanted to show you guys a library I like a lot called Native Base, which has a whole slew of pre-built components for React Native, which, if it'll load, they give you things like cards, buttons, different responsive images and whatnot. It is really cool, and I think it's definitely worth checking out. And this is more similar to the other libraries I mentioned, like React Native Elements or Snowflake or something like that. I'm sorry, what? The current state of the router. Oh. Yes. So there are several stable solutions that people use in production today. I think the one that the community might be centralizing around is this React navigation, which is supposed to be a React navigation, right? Which is supposed to be a learn once, navigate anywhere, I think is their catchphrase. So you should be able to use it on web as well as native. I think right now it's only really being adopted in native, but if you were going to go for one, that would be the one I'd recommend first. We have a production app that is on the store right now, and we use React Native Router Flux. Yeah, because I found it relatively simple to set up and kind of mirror the original React router. So. Yeah. Are you talking about like the stack-based navigation? Uh, yeah, I believe there are a few companies that have their own. I think Wix has one. I don't know who support. Thanks, Miguel. Appreciate that. Sure, that's actually a really great question. So one thing you can do is React Native is smart enough that say I wanted to create two different versions of that NH button component, one for iOS and one for Android. I can actually do nhbutton.ios.js and then nhbutton.android.js. And React Native will know, depending on which platform you're building for, it'll grab the correct file and the correct component and insert it. Other strategies are to use the platform. Let's see. React Native also has excellent guides on this, but they have a platform module that's exported from React Native where you can check the operating system type. And based on that, you can do different sort of stylings or different functionality, call different APIs, whatever you'd like. And it is just plain JavaScript, which makes it relatively simple. Yes. So this is what you're talking about here. Yeah. So I don't know what the origin of Flexbox is, but uh, yoga. Mhm. And then these other keys here are very specific to React Native, and they map to their corresponding CSS properties. But if you try and use a property that's not in the designated list by Facebook, it will throw a warning. Yeah, there is a lot of overlap. Right. Yep. Thanks, guys. Anything else? Code push. Oh, interesting question. Has anyone heard of code push? Yeah. So, I believe this is a Microsoft project, or they bought it, or something along those lines. And let's check out the React Native version. With traditional native apps, every time you want to push out an update, you have to go through the app stores and the same approval process, which traditionally can take anywhere from 1 to 5 days if you don't get rejected. But Microsoft is supporting this project now, Code Push, which allows you to do over-the-air updates. And I believe that's actually what either that or a different variant of it is what Expo uses behind the scenes to push out updates when you republish a new version of your app. So with just a little bit of configuration, I believe you need a code push account, and you need to set up the different app versions correctly. Every time you do a new build or a new production build and you want to push it out, you're actually able to just say code push deploy, and I believe there are a bunch of different configurations you can set on that. But then the next time your users open up your app, they're able to see the new changes. The caveat there being the changes you make can only be in JavaScript land. You can't make any binary changes. I don't know if you can add packages from NPM or anything. No? You can. Yeah, you can add Lodash, but you... Exactly, yeah, you couldn't add a library that you have to link to the native layer. Does that answer your question? Oh, Rails. Sorry. Yeah. I haven't. I know you write in C#, and that's about it. Has anyone used Xamarin? Can anyone speak to that? And that is also true of React Native. Like, there's some weird things with padding on Android, so sometimes you do have to end up writing platform-specific code. Sorry. But I think the beauty of this is that you don't have to learn a new language. You don't have to learn a whole new ecosystem, right? The React that you know and love can now be just kind of moved over into native land, right? Yeah. React Native Playground. Is that like Snack? I don't know that I've seen it. Um, I can't speak to it. I feel like I have seen this a while ago. Mhm. Oh, that's true. Yeah. 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 Anything else? In the demo to take that from to become a production app. So on the back end, obviously you have to deploy the server, right? And then to turn that into a real app, you'd probably want to spruce it up a little bit. But Expo actually has a really great process of taking the app that you built using their toolkit and deploying that for both iOS and Android. And you can either do that by ejecting the Expo toolkit and building it yourself, or using their build service, and there's plenty of docs on that. Does that answer your question, or are you looking for more? If you just want to compile it to Android, I would probably, if you're doing something relatively simple, just stick to Expo's build process, where you can type exp build Android, and it will create the APK file that you need to submit to the App Store. I think it depends. If you want, Miguel might be able to speak to this better. Yeah. If you use Expo's cloud build process, that's how it's going to work. but if you want to eject Expo and build it yourself, then you would need a Mac and Xcode. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Expo is open source too, so if you're worried about it losing adoption, you always have that peace of mind. Yeah. Yes. 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 Very cool. What's that? Generally, I think if you just read the docs for Expo, that's a really good way to get started with this platform. Sure. Exactly. I mean, with their monthly release cadence and occasional breaking changes, your best bet is to kind of rely on the community for this. Yeah. So also you can see here they actually have excellent docs on everything from getting started to specifically how to use their APIs. Anything else? All right, we'll be around after the meetup if you guys want to talk more. Thanks.